Stefanski is in the building in New Jersey. And let the Harbaugh sweepstakes begin. It's delectable, it's delicious, and it's live right now. The Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital starts right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. Cause when it comes to sport, it's all we're gonna do. And Boy Green is always on the scene. And we're gonna always bring it to you live streaming. So get ready, ready. Get ready, cause here they come.
And, you talk about a mood swing, a mood change. Holy crow. I mean, I was a couple of days ago just downright depressed. My team dropped all the way to 5 in the draft. Can't find a way to lose at the end of a season. It's become an annual ritual for us. Tanking's been on my mind. The idea of, is there a bright future? And then within a couple of days, the skies have opened, the Red Sea has parted. And oh my God, I mean, you talk about optimism. I wake up this morning, Boy Green, an excited Giants fan. John Harbaugh is a possible head coach for our team. Kevin Stefanski is in the building today being wined and dined. And there may be other delectable choices that I might bring to the table a little bit later in the show. Boy Green, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Yes, and by the way, Kevin Stefanski was with the Giants last night. They had dinner, and they're continuing to have a breakfast and lunch.
Breakfast this morning, apparently. Yes,
apparently, yes. It continues. So phenomenal. Good for your Giants. And hey, if I was a Giants fan, Adam Schefter last night said Harbaugh to the Giants is the leading favorite to happen. So hey, congratulations, Lurch. I thought if the Giants would have any chance at Harbaugh, obviously nothing's official yet. He's going to go through his whole process. And I'm just getting an alert. The Giants are all in on Harbaugh, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get him. I just got that up.
They better be all in, and they better not let money be an obstacle for sure.
Well, we're going to have a special guest joining us here in just a second. And I would tell you that the conversation we had in the pregame is the same thing I'll tell you now. The Giants, if they end up with Harbaugh as it projects in a lot of different forms or facets, nothing official. The fact that you would have landed Harbaugh without giving up a single pick is stunning to me. We talked about it on the Monday Live show. It takes blockbuster hauls to get coaches. Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, John Gruden. Like, there have been monumental, historical trades that have happened involving coaches trading.
He just got renewed. He had 2 more years on his current deal. I mean, there was no reason for the Ravens to just let him out there. But indeed they did.
So long story short.
Grab those scraps, or chunks, I should say, or giant sticks. All right, perfect timing for this guy. We talk to him every Wednesday, but he's back again from PFF. It's our NFL insider, Dalton Wasserman. You going to say something, PG?
Yeah, no, and this was presented by, who'd you say, Lurch?
Oh, it's presented by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria, which I always love at first slice. Go ahead, Dalton.
What is up, guys? Man, you're right. We got a lot of excitement this week with the playoffs coming, and then the coaching cycle. Boy, you're right. We got a bomb dropped on us, man, and your New York Giants are right at the center of it.
Let's talk about it. I mean, Kevin Stefanski in the building for the Giants today. What do you think of Stefanski as a candidate? He's a 2-time winner of the Coach of the Year, spent some time, obviously some serious time in Cleveland, but we know how dysfunctional that organization has been over the years. Would it be a much better situation for him to come to New York? Because we haven't exactly been, Prince Charming these days.
Yeah, no, I think when you look at what's happened in Cleveland the last few years, right, and he brought him to the playoffs a couple of times, like you mentioned, 2-time Coach of the Year, he is not the first person that I would blame for a lot of the organizational mishaps, right, that happened over there. You talk about the Deshaun Watson trade. You talk about essentially quitting on Baker Mayfield right before that, and he's never had a stable quarterback situation since then, and then the offensive line and receiving core and everything else eroded. I think Stefanski's an awesome coach. I really do. I think he gets the most out of his team at all times, right? The defense was fantastic under Jim Schwartz as well. That'll be another interesting situation and a hot hire, possibly as a head coach or even as a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. But I think Stefanski's awesome. And I think to go to a place, if it were the Giants, if it were maybe the Falcons, somewhere with a stable quarterback situation that he could just really build his offense with, I think he could still be really, really good for somebody else.
Yeah, I want to go into a lot of these different candidates. We got super wildcard weekend, all the playoff games and everything. But I want to start off with a hot topic, which is Harbaugh here. And according to Schefter, 45 minutes after the Ravens fired Harbaugh, 7 teams called Harbaugh's agent about a potential, exploration. And I start doing the math. I'm like, wait a second. There were 6 openings, and then the Ravens were a 7th. The Ravens probably didn't call Harbaugh's agent about signing since they fired him, which means at least one team who has a current head coach. They're married, I thought, happily. Now, well, I mean, let me explore the options here. And Diana Rossini says more teams are going to enter that pool, that they won't just fire their coach outright. They're going to explore the Harbaugh thing before making a decision. So where do these sweepstakes go? How many teams are legitimately in the mix? Just because there's an opening doesn't mean Harbaugh, this coveted, sought-after coach, is going to go there.
I think, like you mentioned, he's going to be the first name on the list. You guys were talking about the Giants, but he's going to be the first name on the list for everybody, right? Sometimes things just run their course, right? He did not do a bad job in Baltimore, even this year, right? They lost in some big moments, obviously some playoff moments that didn't go their way, and at times the players didn't execute in big moments the way they should have. But you even look at this year and where they were within a field goal of winning their division, despite all of the injuries, all of the struggles, the lack of pass rush there in Baltimore, and yet he had his team with a chance to go to the postseason. And if you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, obviously you have a chance to win any game in a one-and-done scenario. But I think you talk about a guy who knows how to coach. The whole Harbaugh family obviously knows how to coach. You see what Jim is doing with the Chargers. And a guy who brings stability and leadership to your organization. Those are the things that every franchise covets. And I'm with you. I think you start to speculate about, wait, who's that 17th or the 7th team there, or maybe the 8th or 9th or 10th? Is it our New York Jets, Boy Green? I mean, maybe thinking about some things just in case they're going to get a reset here, possibly at quarterback and all of that. Just reading tea leaves. But, John Harbaugh, man, he's one of the 10 to 12 best coaches in the NFL. That doesn't change just because he got let go after 18 years in this ball game that happened on Sunday.
To me, if Stefanski is out there for the Giants, let's just talk about it just for the moment from a Giants perspective. To me, he's plan B, and Harbaugh has to be plan A. Do you agree or disagree with that? Let's start there, Dalton.
I would agree with that. And I think the interesting part, too, is, apparently some of the friction with Harbaugh and the organization was he wasn't willing to let go of Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator. So if you were to get those two in a package deal, look, Todd Monken is an awesome offensive coordinator. He allowed Lamar Jackson to take the next step in his development as a pocket passer. I think he could be awesome for Jackson Dart if you get the two of those guys in a package deal. So, no, I'm with you. I think Harbaugh needs to be the first priority. If he does choose to go elsewhere, then you pivot to Stefanski, but the focus has to be building around Jackson Dart and having him hit his potential pretty soon here.
How quickly do you think this Harbaugh thing turns? Because Harbaugh was fired, he is immune to the normal rules and restrictions that are here for playoff teams and these teams. Well, you can only do Zoom interviews until this point, and then at that point you can do physical interviews. Harbaugh was fired, so he could do whatever he wants immediately right now. How quickly does this turn? Because Lurch says, hey, Stefanski, baby, we love you. You're the backup plan. They're not telling him this, of course, but he's the backup plan. But the problem is, if Harbaugh drags his feet and your backup plan is Stefanski goes, you know what? I'm not feeling the love immediately for the Giants. I'm just going to take this job because it's available. And then the Giants don't get Harbaugh. Then all of a sudden they could be left when the music stops and everyone's oh, there's no chair left. Yikes. This stinks. So how fast does the Harbaugh sweepstakes run its course here?
I don't think this takes more than a week or two. I think this guy is going to be so in demand because you got to think about, you talked about John Harbaugh dragging his feet. If you're a team even thinking about hiring this guy, you can't drag your feet because every team with an opening is going to do it, right? If you're the Giants, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, if you're the Tennessee Titans, why would you not check in and see, hey, could we get John Harbaugh to turn this franchise around? Look at all the success that he had with Baltimore. He won a Super Bowl. They went to the playoffs a number of times, right? He built a stable franchise there with Joe Flacco and then did it again with Lamar Jackson. I just think, how could you not ring this guy's phone off the hook if you're every team with an opening? And even you mentioned maybe a couple of them that don't currently have one but would be willing to have one just for him. I think this gets done pretty quickly.
Dalton, I don't want to taint your answer on this, but I'm going to offer a thought on the front end of it, but I want your thoughts on this. Of the teams that have availability, and we have to now throw the Ravens into that pot, although Harbaugh is obviously not going to the Ravens. They just let him go. So I guess we really have to think more stringently about the other 6. Who is the best opportunity? And I'll come out right now and say, this has nothing to do with me being a Giants fan. I think the Giants is the best opportunity because of quarterback, because of age of roster, because of draft picks, and I think to a certain degree because of loyalty of ownership, that even though the Giants have been a little bit off the rails in recent years, they want to be loyal to their guy. And Harbaugh comes from a place that he's just at for 18 years. He would love to come to New York and be there at least 10 years and know that his job is very secure, and I think he would if he made that decision to come to New York. Let's talk about that. Who's number 1 of the 6 available outside of the Ravens?
The 2 that jump out at me with a lot of talent who have just been kind of underachieving the last couple of years. The Giants could be the top spot. If you really like Jackson Dart and you feel like he can be your franchise guy, they have a lot of talent, and you have a lot of talent on defense that underachieve. There's still some pieces to fill in. I think they need more help on the offensive line. Could use maybe one more receiver. That might be worth that 5th overall pick in the draft you're about to have. I think the Giants are up there. I think the Atlanta Falcons are very intriguing too. I think you have to find a way to get Michael Penix back healthy and get him running an offense the way that he's supposed to, right? And I think there was a lot of friction when it came to the play calling in Atlanta too, and that could be helped by somebody like Todd Monken if he's coming with Harbaugh also. But the Falcons have a really good defense. They have a lot of talent. You've got maybe the best back in football in Bijan Robinson. That's another place that I think he should heavily consider because it's a very winnable division, probably the most winnable division in football right now. Those 2 really stand out, the Giants and the Falcons.
Hey, quickly,
right,
a quick follow on this real quick, Boy Green, before we jump.
Yeah.
So word is on the street about what the Giants are lining up, and we knew that they had Stefanski lined up, as Boy Green said last night and into today. It's also out on the street that Mike McCarthy is next. Should we just tell Mike, put away the holiday flannel PJs and forget about it? John Harbaugh's just taking your spot. We need him in here before this weekend. If you're the Giants, do you immediately make that move? I see no place for Mike McCarthy with these other 2, and then perhaps another potential bombshell that we'll talk about in a little bit, maybe to come on the market. Go ahead, comment on that.
There may be a place for him in a place, say, like Tennessee or Las Vegas, but I think as far as the Giants go, I think you have to make Harbaugh your first priority, right? You have a team with enough talent that can win some ball games. They got to go out there and execute better, right? They have way too much talent on their defense, right, to have played as poorly as they did this year. Jackson Dart with Malik Neighbors healthy, get Cam Scatterbo back healthy, get a little more speed on that offense. I think they have a lot of potential, right? I thought they were going to be better than this year, and they just had a lot of things on their team that let them down, and they didn't execute the way they should have. So if I'm the Giants, no, I'm not pivoting to McCarthy at all. I'm trying to make John Harbaugh my first priority, but I think McCarthy in a place like Tennessee or Las Vegas, maybe Arizona too, he could fit in there and still coach a competent team.
All right, let's connect both of your passions, Dalton Wasserman, college football and the NFL. Nice little news drop right before we started here. Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, he's entering the NFL draft. A lot of people thought you would go back. Instead, he's entering the draft. Our Jets, Dalton, have 2 picks. They have the number 2 overall pick, and we're waiting for a different quarterback announcement as it pertains to the NFL draft. But if Ty Simpson now enters this draft, is he firmly in the conversation for that 16th overall pick? Is that sort of the range? What do you make of him as a prospect? What do you make of him for a potential Jets fit? Because that's what a lot of people are now buzzing about after that.
I would much rather take him in the mid-teens than I would second overall. I'd be a little worried about the gamble of taking him second overall because if Dante Moore does come out from Oregon, then I think Mendoza and Moore are clearly the 2 best quarterbacks, and I would have Simpson third in that mix. Now, that doesn't mean Simpson's not a first-round pick, but I'm a little less sure of him than the other 2, right? I don't think he's got elite arm talent. He's not the best athlete in the world, and he doesn't have a whole lot of answers for pressure right now, and that's really shown up the second half of the season. But I do think he's a good prospect. He's a coach's son. He's really heady. He knows what he's looking at out there on the field. If Dante Moore were to stay at Oregon, I would rather the Jets take just a different elite player, a Reuben Bain, a Caleb Downs, or Jordan Tyson, somebody like that, and then wait and see if you could maneuver around if you want Simpson. The problem there is that I think with the Arizona Cardinals picking 3rd or 4th, they need a quarterback also, and they might be a team that takes him.
Okay, now, so you sort of just a quick follow. You sort of answered where it was going to go, but if Dante Moore does not enter the class, is there a world where while you say Ty Simpson in the mid-teens, I can understand that gamble, I don't really understand it higher. But sometimes it's not what happens. It's the demand for the position can make people rise on up. So if Dante Moore does not enter this class, and we won't know that for another week or so, and if he continues to stay alive, maybe longer with the national championship game, could Ty Simpson find his way into that top 5 pick territory? Is that realistic? Could that really happen if he is the perceived second quarterback in this class?
Absolutely. I think between the Jets and the Cardinals, and maybe even we'll see what the Cleveland Browns think of this class or any of these players and how they feel about, how a new coach feels about their internal options. I think it's absolutely possible he could go in the top 5. And I'll be honest with you, this is a draft at any other position that lacks a lot of elite talent, right? There's a handful of guys like a Reuben Bain, like Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame, but there's not a lot of blue chip talent in this draft, right? So I could see a team that just needs a quarterback right now saying, you know what, just take this guy. We'll figure out the rest of it with the defensive depth in this draft later and get on with it and find ourselves a new franchise quarterback. I absolutely think it is a possibility that we still get 3 quarterbacks in the first 3 or 4 picks.
Now, look, I don't usually traffic in Rumorville, but where there's smoke, there's often fire, Dalton. And I have some pretty solid sources in the great city of Pittsburgh, and I am hearing rumblings. And now I know they're preparing right now for a playoff game, and it certainly it's not going to be out there until they get knocked out, I would think. Okay, but I am hearing smoke that Mike Tomlin is going to ask out from the Steelers after this playoff run. Give me your thoughts on that. Are you hearing any smoke? What do you think of that? And how would that change the coaching landscape if suddenly now he was on the market for these teams that are looking for a head coach?
I haven't heard anything. That organization generally keeps things pretty close to the vest. And I do think there would be some credence to it if they lost this game to Houston on Sunday, because what is it? They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. It is, right? And this team just has higher standards. And I think the big thing for Tomlin, it's kind of like Harbaugh. He's been there so long, 19 years now, and they've been kind of spinning their wheels for the last decade. But also, for as much as they made the playoffs, they won the division with Aaron Rodgers, and that's cool. What exactly is the long-term outlook of this team? You have major questions at quarterback after this season, major questions at receiver outside of DK Metcalf. The offensive line still has some questions. I just think offensively, they have not figured out what their identity is for the last 5 or 6 years, and that continues to just spin its wheels. So I wonder if Tomlin is just kind of getting some fatigue, right, and just wants a new situation to try to coach in and just see what a different organization might look like.
What would a good fit for Tomlin be? Is New York a good fit for Tomlin? Is there another team that's available right now? Are the Ravens, dare I say blasphemy, a good fit for Tomlin? How insane would that be? My Lord.
I think, that would be something, wouldn't it? That would really be the fun one.
Turn us upside down and backwards. We'll be talking to you every day if that goes down, Dalton.
I do think the Giants also would make some sense, though. I think one of the problems they've had in recent years, despite, whatever talent level they have, because I do think the Giants have more talent than the 4 wins that they showed this year, just playing fundamentally sound football. And that's what Mike Tomlin gets his teams to do, right? I think outside of 2022 under Brian Daboll when they made the playoffs, the Giants just don't play good football. And that's not just because, they lack talent. Certain spots, they're not the most talented team in football, but they should be better than they are if they would just go out there and execute the way that they're supposed to. Mike Tomlin gets his guys to do that, and that's why he's never had a losing season.
And there's no doubt about it. Again, everybody, make sure you continue to like the video, hit subscribe here. We got all kinds of activity happening here on the channel, including youtube.com/@MCShowDigital. Make sure you guys join the growing army of subscribers for the MC Show digital YouTube channel here, which, by the way, I just wanted to refresh and do a quick update here. We are 3 subscribers away. I'll do a quick plug here, baby. And of course, talking about my Jets. And here it is, folks, the 1972 official New York Jets yearbook cover. Joe Namath, John Riggins, couple of Hall of Famers are, again, 3 subscribers away. That's all that's left. It's first come, first serve. If you're one of our first 450 subscribers, we're at 447 right now at this moment of business. So if you guys want a chance to win this, all it is free. Subscribing to the channel is free. Make sure you do it. We have other subscriber giveaways and another announcement to come after we are done with Dalton Wasserman coming up here shortly.
Yep, we're talking with our NFL insider, Dalton Wasserman from PFF. It's the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends at Cam's. We'll get to your comments when we return.
When you think of Cam's Pizzeria, think about two of your favorites. Their zesty buffalo chicken wing pizza or their tasty chicken bacon ranch. Over 16 specialty pizzas made fresh daily with the best ingredients. Indulge in their homemade calzones, subs, wraps, salads, and their famous cannolis for dessert. They're all made with love just for you. Order online for 10% off at camspizza.com. Locations in Camillus and Oswego. Cam's Pizzeria. It's love at first slice.
All right, BG, and before the break, you were talking about we're only 3 subscribers away from giving away that Jets program. I am committed now. I told you I probably would be, but I'm committed now. Dalton, you might like this. I'm going to play a little 30-second video here. Our next giveaway at 475, only what? That would be 28 subscribers away. You could win this. Take a look. All right, everybody. Our next giveaway is going to be right out of the Manchild's collection. These bobbleheads from the Anchorman, a collection of 4. Check it out. We've got Veronica Corningstone right here. Very cool. Brick Tamlin, the weather guy, the zany weather guy played by Steve Carell. Check out, yes, Brian Fantana with the Sex Panther in his hand. Very, very cool. And then lastly, the sports nut Champ Kind. This collection of bobbleheads going out the door once we get to 475 subscribers. Subscribe now. It's absolutely free. So there you have it, man. The bobbleheads are going, Boy Green. I'm giving up my collection.
Sex Panther. Is that included? You said the Sex Panther is included?
I wish I had a bottle of that, I don't know. That kind of
60% of the time it works every time from what I hear.
Everybody ran in a different direction every time they smelled it. That wasn't good.
Yeah, that's it. Pungent to the nostrils, as I once heard. All right, let's get into it, Dalton. Let's go over to, in between all this head coaching activity, it's Super Wildcard Weekend. I don't know if the NFL calls it anymore. It's sort of like the Jets-Giants game. Is that still called the Snoopy Bowl in the preseason? I don't know. But what I will tell you is this. Let's dive into these playoff games. We've got some juicy matchups, baby, and we'll try to go in order here of everything that we have cooking here with these next couple of games here. Actually, I won't go in order. I'm just going to go all over the place. Let's go to that Steelers-Texans one we're talking about. Earlier, Houston will be traveling to Pittsburgh to try to continue this magical journey here, both for both teams. Houston started the season rough and turned it around, and now we have some Aaron Rodgers magic. Is this going to be a bloodbath? Is this going to be the beginning of Bambi? And we see that with, Bambi's parents. Is that what's going to happen here with Aaron Rodgers against that Texans defense?
No, I think we're going to get a close defensive football game. You got 2 teams with really, really good defenses, great pass rushes. And I think the key to the game is which of these 2 quarterbacks between Aaron Rodgers and C.J. Stroud, which of them handles pressure better, which of them has the better answers for pressure, right? You talk about T.J. Watt and that Steelers defensive line getting after, and then Will Anderson is a freak of nature off the edge for the Houston Texans. I think you're getting a low-scoring, hard-fought game, and it's never easy to win in that building as a road team.
Yeah. By the way, that game will be on Monday Night Football. Just to shout out.
Yeah, that is the last game of the whole bracket. There are other great games here. One of them is one of those divisional rivalries. It's the Packers and the Bears. It's a 7 and a 2 seed. The Bears with a lot to prove here in the playoffs with the young quarterback in Caleb Williams. The Packers a little more seasoned, but haven't played well of late. But they'll get kind of most of their crew back together here. Who do you like in this 7-2 matchup, Dalton, and why?
I think this is probably the closest one. This is the hardest game for me to pick because we saw the first two games these 2 teams played, and they went right down the wire and even beyond it, right? Just classic finishes. And the fact that we're getting round 3 is just so awesome. I think that is the big key, though. You mentioned the Packers. How healthy are they going to be? I'm sure Jordan Love is going to be back. Are they going to get their right tackle, Zach Tom, back? How healthy is the receiving core? Can they find any sort of pass rush without Micah Parsons? There's a lot of keys for the Packers that really ride with the injuries, right? And then the Bears, kind of an odd offensive week last week. Ben Johnson not thrilled with the way they played in Week 18 against the Lions, but I think they can find just enough to get it done at home. I have the Bears, but I do think it goes right down the wire again.
Let's go to the other Saturday game. You tell me how important previous matchups are between teams. We have the Rams going back to Carolina. On the surface, a 12-5 team versus an 8-9 team. What the hell's going on here? But the last time the Rams visited Carolina, they got a big fat L and the Panthers won. So, hey, we got a juicy NFC rematch here. Do the Panthers have the tactical advantage here?
I don't think so. I mean, the two things that really started in that last game that the Rams have struggled a little bit with, right? They turned the ball over 3 times in that game, which was a big reason it flipped in the Panthers' direction. And their secondary has not been the same since Bryce Young kind of tore him up and won that ball game that day. Really, the last 6 weeks, they've kind of struggled. So I'm curious to see if the Rams can bounce back in that area and then just play clean football, right? I think if they play clean football, don't turn the football over and lose it 3-0 again in that area, I think the Rams go in there and take care of business. I do think it is justified that this is the widest spread of the week because the Rams are the better team. The Panthers really had to play an almost perfect game to squeak out the first one.
All right, people here in Central New York and Western New York looking for the Bills to make a run. The nemesises don't exist. Even Lamar's not in it now. Certainly Patrick Mahomes is not in it. So all the things are removed, but the Bills will have to do this on the road. They will not have an easy path, perhaps one of the most difficult paths if they were to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Let's dissect it. Bills and Jags. Who's going to win it?
I honestly think this is my favorite game of the weekend. I think you've got a stacked Jacksonville team with a really good defense. The receiving corps has figured it out ever since they traded for Jacoby Myers. And right now, Trevor Lawrence is the hottest quarterback in the NFL over the last month and a half. And then, of course, you get playoff Josh Allen, right? And the question is going to be, to me, can their defense step up just enough? And can their receivers step up just enough, right? I mean, they got guys like Brandon Cooks out there trying to save this receiving corps. Can they really win a Super Bowl without a number one type receiver? That's going to be a question for me. I think it's going to be a fantastic game, but I'll be honest with you, I'm leaning towards Jacksonville. I think they're the better football team all around. I know Josh Allen, no matter where you're playing, is always hard to overcome, but I think the Jags are actually just better than the Bills are.
Let me sprinkle something into the mix. It just hit me. We're in the middle of playoff talk, but if the Bills go one and done as you are currently leaning, do the Bills fire Sean McDermott for John Harbaugh?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think they do.
Okay.
But if I was running the show, I probably would. I've been of the belief for a couple of years now that the Bills' defense has been the reason that they have not won a Super Bowl. And Sean McDermott is your defensive-minded head coach. I don't think they'll do it. Him and Brandon Beane have been tied at the hip this entire time since their Carolina days. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would at least highly consider it, especially for a guy like Harbaugh. I would almost, the best structure for them, honestly, would be hire Jim Harbaugh and keep Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. That's just me. I don't believe they're going to do it unless it looks like they go out there and it's a disaster and they lose by 28 or something like that. They're not going to, but I would highly consider it personally. I would.
All right, let's talk about another matchup. This one will come Sunday at 4:30. It's the 6-seeded 49ers against the Eagles. Man, what a disappointing performance out of the 49ers in the final week of the season when a lot was on the line. I'm really disappointed that Kyle Shanahan couldn't craft a better game plan. Is this going to be the Eagles of old, or is this disjointed squad that somehow, some way could even be one and done this year when they face a team like the Niners?
Well, if the Eagles are smart, they turn it back into being the Eagles of last year. And what does that mean? You get under center and you hand Saquon Barkley the football over and over and over, because Seattle showed in that Week 18 game against San Fran, you can run the football on this team. The 49ers defensive line is their biggest weakness. The Eagles, as we know, their offensive line is generally their biggest strength, especially if they get Lane Johnson back for this game at right tackle. That's what I think the Eagles have to do. Go in there, run the football, control time of possession, get Saquon Barkley 30 carries, and be the more physical team on the field. Do not ask Jalen Hurts to try to outduel Brock Purdy, because if Purdy does get hot, he can win this game. Go in there and control the pace of the game with the run game.
All right, let's go to the other Harbaugh over there with the Chargers. They're traveling to play New England. It's, again, that 2-7 matchup, which is very difficult. Do the Chargers have a lick of a chance with all their injuries? Do they even have any offensive linemen left, for God's sakes? Do they have any chance
of this game, which is so surprising. Yeah.
Right.
I honestly think this is going to be an awesome game. I think they absolutely have a chance, right? Justin Herbert against Drake May is a great matchup. Yes, the Chargers' offensive line is a problem, but you're facing one of the softer pass rushes in the AFC when you're talking about New England. It's not a great pass rush. They really need Milton Williams on the inside to dominate this game. And even then, Herbert's been doing well, I should say, outside of the pocket and even running the football all season. And then what you have in the Chargers' defense is a really good, really underrated unit. Derwin James and that secondary, I think, is going to be able to keep a lid on things on the back end. I think this is going to be a close football game. I think the Chargers have every opportunity to pull this upset off and then get round 3 with Denver in the second round.
All right, let's go on the record. Let's do this. We're all together. The playoffs have not started yet. Pick your AFC winner. Pick your NFC winner. We don't have to pick the Super Bowl winner yet. But who you got coming out of the AFC? Who do you have coming out of the NFC? Dalton, you want to go first?
I'm going to take the Rams in the NFC. And I have struggled this entire time. I told somebody yesterday Patriots, and then the more I thought about it, I'm leaning away. I reserve the right to change my predictions at any time I feel like. Man.
You'll just live and die by what you say today, however.
Yeah, I was put on the spot with this on a radio show yesterday, and I said Rams Patriots, and now I regret it because now I might change. The AFC, I really have no idea.
Go a different flavor. You if you put out multiple things, you'll be right somewhere. It's a smart
no
strategy.
sheet of integrity required for this March Madness.
This AFC is so tough. I'm going to ride with my guy Trevor Sikkema on the PFF NFL show. I'll go Rams Jaguars. Let's do that.
All right, he's going to go Rams Jags. All right, I love the Rams too.
This AFC is such a mess, man. I don't even know what to do with it at this point.
Absolute crazy town. I love the Rams too. I'm going to go with them, despite the fact that they'll have to do it on the road. And I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. And they could be one and done, and they could go to the Super Bowl. And I understand that both are a choice, and I also hate their road. But I want to take the quarterback that I believe in the most, and he's the one. And even though they have inherent weaknesses, I still like James Cook. I still like the fact that they've been there and done that, okay? And I know been there, done that, meaning, they've been in the playoffs and done that, and they've been to Super Bowls in recent days, and they certainly haven't won a Super Bowl in their history. I just feel it with the Bills this year, so I'm going to go touchy-feely there, and I'm going to go Bills. So I'm going to go Rams, Bills, Super Bowl. Boy Green.
I never thought I would agree with Manchild, but here we are. I am going to go with the quarterback that I trust the most, and that's Sam Darnold, baby. The Seattle Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl, my boy Sammy, and they're going to play against the Jacksonville Jaguars and Goldilocks Trevor Lawrence. We're going to see that 2 quarterback matchup. Who would want to see a Seahawk versus a Jaguar in some sort of an animal octagon? I do. Seahawks Jags, baby. Yes.
Man, you're going the route with... You're going the route with 2 quarterbacks who should have been good with the Jets. We didn't develop Darnold right. We didn't tank right to get Trevor Lawrence. You're just really living the dream there with Lawrence versus Darnold is what you're doing.
Huh, I didn't notice that. That's weird. That's odd. Interesting.
Yeah. Dalton, we always enjoy our conversations with you, my friend. Thanks again, and we'll be in the heat of the playoffs by the time we talk to you next, and perhaps Mike Tomlin will be on the market by the time we talk next. We'll see if my sources are any good out of Pittsburgh. Dalton, thanks so much, buddy.
Absolutely. Take it easy, guys. See you next week.
All right, there he goes. PFF's Dalton Wasserman giving us some love here on the Manchild Show with Boy Green. And don't forget, pop that subscribe button. If you're not already a subscriber, become part of our growing army of people. We're about to give away that Jets program. We're only, a couple of subscribers away from that, and only a little more than 25 subscribers away from giving away that bobblehead set. Boy Green, I'll play the video one more time in case people missed it. Check it out. We're giving this away at $475. You want in on this.
All right, everybody, our next giveaway is going to be right out of the Manchild's collection. These bobbleheads from the Anchorman, a collection of 4. Check it out. We've got Veronica Corningstone right here. Very cool. Brick Tamlin, the weather guy, the zany weather guy played by Steve Carell. Check out, yes, Brian Fantana with the Sex Panther in his hand. Very, very cool. And then lastly, the sports nut Champ Kind. This collection of bobbleheads going out the door once we get to 475 subscribers. Subscribe now. It's absolutely free.
Cost anything. Very, very cool. And you're walking away with my collection of bobbleheads. Man, I used to have that on my desk at work for a number of years. I got it when the movie came out from the folks at, I think it was Universal Pictures or whoever put out that movie. I think it was Universal for some reason, but I could be wrong about that. But very, very cool. And unfortunately, I know you don't see Ron Burgundy there. Someone came into my office a good, 20 years ago and saw them sitting there, all 5 of them. And they said, hey, wow, I love the movie The Anchorman. Is there any chance? And I forget who I gave it to, Boy Green, but whoever it was somebody that I liked a lot because I was just like,
I hope so.
All right, okay, dude. All right, you can have Ron. And he took off with my Ron Burgundy. And I have since tried to replace Ron Burgundy in that collection to have all 5 because it was a set of 5 when it all began. And there are a few of them out there. Saw them on eBay and so on and so forth. But I don't know, the price was just a little too steep for me to want to complete the collection. So now I figure, all right, I'll give the collection away. And if someone else wants to, go down that route and see if they want to get the 5th one and have the whole complete collection. But I just dig them. They're just really cool to look at. I mean, some bobbleheads I think are done better than others. They're not in perfect condition. As you saw, there was that little Anchorman plate that's on the front for each character. You have the name of the character on the front of it. Sure. That's all complete. But there's this little kind of stick-up plate, and 2 of the 4, the plate fell off because it was very, very delicate. And, I just had it out there in normal life. So having been packed up a few times and moved around, I lost those little tiny plates. But I still think it's a very, very cool collection. And it's definitely a talk piece. Like, I remember having it in my office and people would always ask me about it and would bring up memories about the movie. So if you love that movie, it's a cool thing to put on your office desk or wherever you might attract a crowd, so to speak, because it's a nice conversation piece. So we'll do that at $475, which is only a little more than 25 subscribers away.
Yes. Lurch, okay, sure. You said, I've tried to replace Ron Burgundy over the years. You looked, and it's super expensive on eBay. What about the reverse? Finding this godforsaken bastard you gave it to and hunting him down and getting it back.
I don't even remember who it was.
I know, but can you crack it down in your mind? Like, who could have possibly been? But so you tell me that this person was important enough in your life that you give it to him, but not important enough where you'd remember him? That doesn't sound very important at all.
Well, I'm sorry, man. Old age is a scary thing, Boy Green. And sometimes things come back. Like, I can remember the weirdest, strangest things from when I was 5 years old, and then ask me something from 3 weeks ago. I'm like, what? I said that? I did? I gave that to who? So, I just don't remember. Again, there was so many people that trafficked in and out of my office in the radio world when I was a program director. And someone came in. It was, if I had to guess, it was probably someone on my staff. Somebody
that should be a relatively smaller list. Yeah, that's what I would say.
And that makes the list about 75 people. Like, that's not a small list.
But get a list of 75 and start calling them. Hey, how are you? Hey, by the way, did you steal that Anchorman thing?
You mean back Ron Burgundy? God damn it! 100%. I want it back. I want it back, and I want it for nothing. You've had your use. What could you possibly be doing with it? I have the other 4. I need the 5th.
See, you're missing an infinity stone. But real quick, just to highlight it again, it's that link right there on your screen, youtube.com/@MCShowDigital. You may be watching the show right now from a couple of different places. Could have came here via Facebook, could have came here on Twitter, or my YouTube channel, @BoyGreen25. But subscribe to this channel. Again, I'm going to hit the refresh button to make sure I have the most up-to-date information. We are still at internet. All right, 447 subscribers. So we're 3 subscriber away. 3 people. If you subscribe right here for free, you have a chance to win this 1972 official New York Jets yearbook cover. It's got 2 Hall of Famers on it, Joe Namath and John Riggins, and it's in this case to keep it pristine condition. We'll randomly pick somebody in the universe. We'll pluck them out of a hat, and then we will find you and ship it to you, and it'll go to you for free. You don't have to pay a single dime. So again, the next 3 people, if you're one of the next 3 people, subscribe there and remain a subscriber, because only one person will win. So that means 499, I suppose, will lose. But stay a subscriber, because we're going to continue, as Lurch just said with the Anchorman bobbleheads, to do free giveaways here on the channel. So, folks, help us grow our family.
Very, very cool. I want to jump into some comments, and I do want to go back and circle back and talk about topic A today, Boy Green. We did it with Dalton Wasserman. I do want to do it between the 2 of us. It is a very, very interesting little world, and I'm sure that on your Jets show this morning, you were talking about the possibility of, would the Jets, dare I say, go back on their decision and their vote of confidence for Aaron Glenn now that someone like John Harbaugh is out there and could be a complete game changer, perhaps. So we could talk about that. I want to start with the teams that are available, and that includes, of course, my football Giants. It's no definitive thing that he's going to go there, but I do think it's a good fit. Old Yank says, I'll put money on the fact that Harbaugh lands on the Giants. Best setup for the man. And I think I agree with Old Yank. I mean, here's the thing. And the reason that I think he really, really fits the Giants. Number one, I do believe that Jackson Dart is going to be a franchise quarterback. I think he has shown me enough in this short time. I think he has very good instincts at the position. And I think once he's given more weapons, I think he can really, really explode. I think the biggest challenge will be keeping himself safe. And we actually did see, believe it or not, in week 18, Boy Green, I know not a lot of people were watching that lousy game other than me, okay, and watching the Cowboys lay down like little Larrys, okay? But the fact of the matter is Jackson Dart slid in that game. Jackson Dart stepped out of bounds when a defender was coming at him in that game. So clearly, Mike Kafka, at least at the end of this whole thing, was getting through to him a little bit that, hey, your future is much more important than an extra yard on a meaningless play in week 18. Okay. So let's at least temper our value here on that premise. And I would think that a really good coach would be able to get through to Jackson Dart and, keep him out of harm's way more often than not. Hey, listen, I don't mind when it's 4th and 1 and,
Right.
and you're a yard away instead of just doing the duck and slide and giving the ball back to the other team. You say, time to lower the shoulder, baby. This is an important moment in this game in the 4th quarter, and I'm going to do
Or the
it.
Super Bowl or something. A John Elway helicopter. It's an important. You have to have that gauge though in your brain of when you think, oh, it's go time, baby. It's 4th and 1. It's the Super Bowl. It's a touchdown. 4th and goal. I've got no choice. I have to cross that plane or it's out. Yes. There are times.
We've seen Elway. We've seen Brady. We've seen Montana. We've seen historical quarterbacks put their body in harm's way in the moment. You just got to know when the moment is. And this guy, that's the problem. He just doesn't understand the moment. He thinks the moment is every time I go out and play football is the moment. First quarter, first play, first series, doesn't matter. First game, we're 2-12. Let's do it anyway. There's a recklessness that has to be course corrected here for Jackson Dart. And I think he can do it. But to go back to my conversation. So I think they have the quarterback in place. Yeah. I do like some of the young pieces in this roster, but this is a very incomplete roster, and I'm not going to try and, throw rose petals at all the talent that the Giants have. I think they have some talent. I think they got a lot of problems. Okay. I asked that question, right, of our Jets insider, Nick Farrier, last week, who was subbing for Jake Asman, and I said, so I know it's a little early to talk draft, but let's start talking draft because now we know the Jets are at number 2. What are their needs this year? We don't need a quarterback. What else they need? And Nick just looked, and you just looked at me like, what are their needs? I mean, need everything, right? And I feel the same way a little bit with the Giants. Like, they need a little bit of everything. They have a lot of places that you could select from, and it isn't just such a cut and dry, so clear what the Giants, if they stayed, say, at number 5, what would they do? I think if I were picking for them, I'd be thinking receiver. Because I really think that having another weapon along with Neighbors is really, really important to the development of your quarterback. So I think I would probably go that route. But they could end up trading down, and then maybe there's some other assets that they feel that they could get, or maybe they could turn it into 2, first and, turn it into 2 picks in the 1st and 2nd round, plus the pick they already have, and have an extra player now in the fold. And maybe they could, perhaps fill some of the many needs that they have. And like I said at the top of the show, I do think that despite the fact that this ownership has shown to be leaky at best in recent years, untrustworthy at best in recent years, the fact of the matter is they still are very loyal, and they still have a great tradition. I mean, this is a franchise that has won 4 Super Bowls, the last one going back to 2011. They have a great history in the league, and the Mara family definitely is one of those names out there, dare I say. So I think there is a willingness and a want to be loyal, and I think that also helps for someone, say, like a Harbaugh, who comes from a really stable situation in Baltimore, to want to maybe come into something that I think is fairly stable, at least from ownership perspective. I think some changes need to be made. Ed Valentine made some really, really valid points. Go back and listen to our conversation of just a couple of days ago when he talked about the Giants have a lot of, for lack of a better way of putting it, cronies in the front office these days in important positions like scouting and player development and player personnel that I think probably we'd love to see hosed out, and let's just get good football people in there. But sometimes when you have 2 families running an organization, you just, you prioritize family, dare I say. You say, yeah, well, I like my cousin in that spot. And, my nephew's pretty good over there. And you maybe don't evaluate them the same way you might critically evaluate other people in your organization. So I think the Giants need to do a little bit of hosing out, frankly, of this whole idea of, family is the best place to be here when it comes to, all these important positions along the way that are making these decisions that clearly have put this franchise in a bad place. And they need to get that right. And it's not just a matter of a coach. But I'm hoping if you get a strong coach, someone like a John Harbaugh, maybe he can have some influence on what's going on in the front office and how decisions are being made. And maybe more of that power shifts to the coach. And maybe that helps right the ship for the Giants, because I don't know how you're going to get rid of these cronies that are, the nephew and the son-in-law and the this and the that of, the owners. How do you get rid of that stuff? You never do. Any of us that have been business, we know, oh God, it's the owner's son. I'm screwed. Like they're going to make him VP in 6 months as soon as, he learns, X, Y, and Z. And the next thing you know, he's VP. And you're like, what's that guy VP? He doesn't know anything, Right. In 6 months, he learned a lot. Go ahead, VJ.
Well, I'll tell you this, we are now 2 subscribers away from our next free giveaway, folks. So again, subscribe right there, youtube.com/@MCShowDigital. If you're one of the next 2 people to subscribe, you're in the running for our free giveaway. So we'll keep reminding you that as we keep getting excitingly closer to some of these deadline giveaways. So we'll let you know. So again, 2 subscribers, again, wherever you're watching, it's youtube.com/@MCShowDigital be eligible for our free giveaway. And no, to Old Yang's comment that you brought up, if I was a betting man and I had to bet an amount of money that mattered to my family on where Harbaugh's going next, it would be that he is a Giant. That would be my gut. You mentioned the respect of the mirror and the tissues at the top of the Giants tree, the iconicness of the franchise, and not just the history, right? He's not going there to see a museum. He's going there to try to do what's the now. And the now is they believe they have a franchise quarterback. They believe they've got a lot of really talented players on defense. And, of course, they have all the assets of a 5th overall pick. Malik Neighbors, I didn't mention, obviously, Cam Scattaboo, 100%. Some intriguing things with Theo Johnson, a talented guy who sort of dropped off of the back end. You have Andrew Thomas. Like, you have pieces on this team. Plus, you have the 5th overall pick, which Carnell Tate, hello, Ohio State wide receiver, or whoever it's going to be. Right now. So if I'm Harbaugh, that's a clear picture that I could see. Again, maybe you're going to get an offer you can't refuse from one of these openings that we're not talking about. But if I was a betting man, I would say Harbaugh to the Giants.
Do you have any desire now that he's out there? Let's even just say, hypothetically that Tomlin popped out there. Would you, if you were Woody? Would you, if you were running
Tomlin or Harbaugh?
Either. I mean, if both, let's just say both were out there. Okay, just to make it like the penultimate situation. Would you go back on your word here? If you were running the Jets, all right? Or do you think there's 2 questions here? Would you do it? And do you think there's any chance Woody would do it? Because that's, I guess, the one that really matters.
I think both of my answers, me speaking for Woody, which he loves me doing, and myself, we have the same answer, and it's no. And here's why. I think it's just messy. And this was my point. So on my morning show, which was nearly 3 hours, God blessed be he, on this Harbaugh thing, I explain the facts and then my take on it. And then we took a lot of phone calls of people all over the place. To me, you have no idea if Harbaugh wants to come to the Jets. So everyone wants Harbaugh. Sure, you want him. The resume is outstanding. He has a 600 winning percentage. He's a Super Bowl champion head coach. In his 18 seasons, 13 of the 18 have been above 500 records. 11 of those 13 have had double-digit win seasons. So he's been a consistent winner. He's been a Super Bowl winner. He's been really great, and there's a lot of reasons to want Harbaugh. But to me, there's no guarantee that he wants the Jets versus not. And then what do? So you just fire AG right now for the chance to get Harbaugh, and then you go crazy and make a full court press? And what if you miss? Then what happens? Or let's do the opposite. Let's say you make some exploratory calls. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Adam Schefter and Diana Rossini reported that teams that have had coaches made calls to Harbaugh's camp say, would you? Maybe? Possibly? And they went through that whole rigmarole. What if that talk gets out? What if you keep AG because you don't want to lose him, but you explore Harbaugh and flirt with that, and then a reporter goes, hey, did you know the Jets made a full court press for Harbaugh? And then if you keep Glenn, that undercuts everything that you just said for Glenn, that you believe in him and unwavering, and that would look all phony, fugazi. So while I'm not naive, Harbaugh's resume is super impressive, and Tomlin's for that matter. All the winning seasons, he has a Super Bowl ring as well from the beginning of his career. That's very impressive. I like the fact, and 2 insiders came out last night. So Harbaugh gets fired. There's rumors all over the place. Oh my goodness, Jets should fire Aaron Glenn and hire Harbaugh. And then 2 insiders calmed down that noise, reiterating essentially the same message. Not that this needs to be said, and I'm paraphrasing. The Jets are believe in the vision of AG and Muji, and that's the way they're going. They're not changing. They will not pursue Harbaugh. And again, while that's an unpopular take to the fan base who has a bloodlust after this god-awful 3-14 season, I would stick with the program.
All right. William confirms that, saying Harbaugh not coming to the Jets, stop the insanity. AG, like him or not, is the coach for 2026. And I think that will be true. Listen, I would not expect that we would not have some detractors. I want to bring up some of those opinions as well, Boy Green, because there are some people that don't like John Harbaugh, don't feel that he's done a good one. Keep it simple here. RC says, I have no faith in John Harbaugh. The guy had Lamar Jackson and couldn't make the playoffs, even after Jackson made several spectacular comebacks, only to see the defense let them down. The only thing I would say about that is literally that guy makes that kick, they're in the playoffs this year, and they have made a lot of playoff runs with Harbaugh, and he has won a Super Bowl. So you can't disclaim some of the things he's done, but he had 18 years and he wasn't always there. So I think it's a fair criticism, but I do want to point out the other side as well.
Yeah, and just to carry the water on that, for Keep It Simple RC, if you're going to be in that devil's advocate of like, what's with Harbaugh? He won a Super Bowl like 12 years ago. So it's been a hot. Hey, I would prefer my Jets to have won a Super Bowl 12 years ago versus 70. So thank you. But no, I think not even just this year. I would take a step back from this year, even though this year is a problem. And NFL Network Insider Ian Rappaport, this is the question everyone is bypassing because they're like, ooh, Harbaugh. Why did he get fired from the Ravens? And apparently, according to Rappaport, Harbaugh lost the locker room. And during player exit interviews, over half of the roster complained to ownership that they're not sure if they want to play for Harbaugh next year. And I went, oh my goodness, that's a red flag. So what's going on with that situation? But no, the more pressing thing is the fact that he's had Lamar Jackson, who's a 2-time NFL MVP. It should have been 3-time NFL MVP, and he hasn't won another Super Bowl. How have you not won it with all this talent? Lamar is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in football, and yet you've failed to get over the hump. In all these situations, the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, where they refused to run Derrick Henry, they have these inexplicable coaching mishaps. That's a part to do it. So, yeah, that's what I would say for the Keep It Simple RC point. If you want to push back against it, what was it? Why did he get fired in the first place just now when we heard some very concerning things? And number two, during the second window of his career, the second act of his career, he won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. That was cool. And Joe Flacco is old as heck. Let's put that Super Bowl ring aside. What has he done recently? This is a prisoner of the moment league. What have you done for me lately? And quite frankly, there's a lot of concerns.
Keep It Simple followed that up by saying Stefanski, the guy mishandled the Shador situation.
Is
that the way you look at it? Did he mishandle it, or was this a directive? This is what I worry about with Houston: is who was really running things. Who was
not Houston, Cleveland, right?
Cleveland. I'm sorry. Yeah, who is making these decisions? Is Jimmy Haslam and his wife pressuring? What's the influence of the GM in that situation? How much is Stefanski actually making these decisions?
Okay, so I think there's a conversation to be had from a draft aspect, because when they showed the camera in the room, like, these guys were not clapping.
They wanted Stefanski.
Emotionless.
Shador,
yeah. They had emotionless faces because they cut to the draft room when someone gets drafted. Normally it's like, yeah, high fives, yeah, we got our guy.
Sometimes a picture tells 1,000 words, right?
But it was just Andrew Berry and Stefanski just going. It just looked like the most uninspired, unenthused.
We just drafted a guy 2 rounds ago, but I guess we got him.
Right. So I think there is a draft thing to be said. Did they push the thumb on the scale for the draft? And we could debate that. The thing that to me is no longer debate is how they handled it from the draft, where we're talking about the quarterback split. They had Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and at one point Snoop Hundley. They had 5 quarterbacks at one point on their roster. They end up trading everybody away. They trade away Kenny Pickett. They trade away Joe Flacco. But like the refusal, so Shador eventually gets in there by hook and crook and injury, like not by choice. And he looks halfway decent. And then after you're like, well, fans are saying this, whoever's saying this after watching the game. Well, obviously Shador is the starter next week. Look at he just performed. Intrigued enough to see what else is there. And Stefanski came out and said, well, I wouldn't say that. We still got to think about it. We still got to evaluate. And everyone's like, what? Why? What? That doesn't make any sense. Why? What is up for debate? And then it almost like you got peer pressure midway through the week. All right, Shador's the starter. And we're like, it was just weird.
It was weird. And it just didn't feel like he had control of the situation. So,
and if he doesn't, why? Why would Stefanski, a 2-time coach of the year, not have control of roster decisions? Of who? If you can't do that, then what the hell is a coach doing? You can't determine who starts. Isn't that your job? Do you have the ingredients there, and you don't get to pick who plays when and where? That's coming from ownership. That's a concerning thing for Cleveland, and maybe for Stefanski for not having a backbone. I put my foot down. Yeah, I'm going to start Shador if he really wanted to so bad. If not, fire me. Oh, you're not? Okay, Shador's playing. But it feels less likely that was the case. So, anywho, there is weird. I don't know if that's enough of a reason to hate Stefanski, the weird Shador thing, but it is a weird thing on the resume, sure.
Yeah, this is a fair thing to bring up by Oka Jet Fan. Was that
Okay.
Oka? Is that a Q?
I believe that's a Q.
Cuca Jet Fan.
Q Jet Fan. Yeah.
Cuca Jet Fan. Loyalty. The last several coaches haven't lasted longer than 3 years. I believe he's referring to the Giants. Because
Yes.
in our conversation, right?
Shermer,
And I preach
McAdoo,
that there is loyalty in this organization. Well, let me offer an explanation. He's right to bring that up. By the way, true. Facts are facts. I mean, you got to live with the facts, right? But I think the Giants want to be loyal. Look at what they're doing right now with their GM. Like they're showing a weird, odd loyalty. A lot of people are like, get him out of here. He's been bad. He's made bad decisions. He didn't want Saquon. Look what happened there. He wanted Daniel Jones. And look what happened there. He's done dopey things here, left and right. Even Joe Shane in his presser to end the season a few days ago was like, I've made mistakes, but you have to try to learn from them. And
I stubbed my toe, and I have good ownership to let me bounce back.
But I appreciate, the Giants want to be loyal. They want a stable, loyal situation, but for some reason in recent years, they haven't been able to deliver it. And the noise has been loud. And I just think, I don't know, there just doesn't, to me, there isn't enough clarity in ownership these days. My understanding, and Ed Valentine reiterated it the other day, our Giants insider, when we talked about it the other day, is ultimately, even though it's 50-50 between the Mara and the Tisch families, John Mara supposedly is the final say. He's the last link. He's the one that has to, put his final stamp or not on any of the big football decisions. All right. And we saw in that Hard Knocks, he didn't want to let Saquon go. Okay, wait a minute. What do we do without Saquon? What if he lands, with the Eagles or a division rival, right? And that's exactly what ends up happening. But the fact of the matter is he didn't put his foot down. He let Joe Shane make that decision, okay? And it turned out to be likely a bad decision. We'll see. I think the jury's kind of still out, but, the Eagles did win a Super Bowl with the guy. We'll see. Yes, I do, because I do think you have to look at something across a specter of time and not just look at a singular season or a singular moment.
He had the greatest running back season of all time.
I get it.
And a Super Bowl.
But if he stinks from this day forward, okay,
it doesn't matter.
You don't think it matters? Okay, I do. I think
after winning a Super Bowl, and so
clearly,
individual success and Super Bowl. If his lifeless carcass got dragged to a Super Bowl and he had no impact, then we're like, okay, sure, you won a Super Bowl, but you didn't do anything. The fact that he had the greatest running back season ever, and they happen to win the Super Bowl, and for a rival, I mean, I feel like no matter what he does,
you don't have to twist my arm that hard. Plus, I just think Saquon's just a great guy. He's just a great
he is a great
locker room presence, and he's a great community presence. So the Giants let all of that go. They didn't select over running back who they thought, might age quickly, because it just seems like all running backs these days, especially those that have had multiple injuries, just age very quickly. They can age and, in a season, and you're like, whoa, what happened to that guy? He was so great. And now he's so slow. All right. He can't break tackles like he used to. So they misgaged it. There's no question. It's a terrible Shane mistake. It's a terrible mistake for the organization, because if Saquon Barkley does have a few more good years in Philadelphia and ends up, in a football Hall of Fame or something, goes in an Eagles uniform, you're like disgusted as a Giants game. I mean, that is like, throw up on the desk kind of material. I mean, come on. I mean, we couldn't figure out, we expended a number 2 overall pick in the draft for this guy over all kinds of other assets. All right. That's how much we believed in him. But we couldn't believe in him enough to pay him a few $1 million more a season because he's a running back and he's what at that time was like 26 or 27 years old. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's just a poor excuse for a decision, and they should not have let that happen. And the fact that he landed on the Eagles is a disaster. So, all right.
Well,
you don't have to get this anymore. All right. It was a mistake. It was a tragic mistake. It was a terrible mistake. Okay. I'm sold.
Yeah. The bad thing for the Eagles, because they were just, I assume, trying to be arrogant and pelvic thrust in the direction of the Giants. Yeah. So after they won the Super Bowl, they're like, hey, Saquon, I know we already gave you a new deal, but how about another new deal? Here's just more money. And they just signed him to an extension. And a lot of people started dunking on the Giants for it. And then Saquon has this rough year this year, statistically speaking. And now they're like, okay, well, that was over the top, Eagles. So that's the mistake. If the Eagles made a mistake in all this, it was just randomly giving him a raise for absolutely no reason. That was definitely it.
There's a lot of rumors out there, and here's one that's being brought up again by Kuka Jet fan, who says, wasn't it already reported the 7th team to call for Harbaugh was the Dolphins? I don't know that I've heard any credible reporting on that, but that sounds like a rumor that could be true if there was, as we say, 7 phone calls made to the agent, and obviously one of the 7 wasn't the Ravens, and there's only 6 availabilities. That means somebody with a head coach might have made that decision. And I talked about just a couple of days ago, I still think McDaniel's on hot coals here. I still think he's walking on eggshells. But at the moment, he has gotten a vote of confidence. That doesn't mean they can't change their mind, especially if there are all these guys available in the cycle that are pretty coveted guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, this to me is, you go to an art museum and I look at a painting, Lurch looks at a painting. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder here on this situation. Adam Schefter reported that 7 teams called Harbaugh 45 minutes after he was fired. Josina Anderson reports that the Dolphins called the Harbaugh's camp. Now we can connect the dots and say, oh, Schefter's reporting was true, Josina's reporting was true, so Dolphins are 17. Mm-hmm. It could be the Dolphins are team 8, team 9, team 10, like because Diana Josina of The Athletic, that more than 7 called them. So now we're playing connect the dots with reporting. So so no, it has not been confirmed that the 17 that Schefter was referencing was clearly the Dolphins, and now the mystery's over. There is more teams than the 7 that's being reported that called. So I would expect that number to be very high.
And let's all, also be well aware, and I don't doubt there's truth in the statement, but it was Harbaugh's agent that put this out. I mean, do you understand what the job of an agent is?
Of course.
Job of the agent is, my guy's wanted, my guy's coveted. Let's have some competition. Let's drive the price up. I mean, this is what agents do. So if I was his agent, whether I got 7 calls or 10 calls or whatever amount of calls, I'd be saying that. All right, let me go on the record. Hey, yeah, I'll talk to you. Yeah, John's already got 7 calls. Yeah. Like maybe you got 2 calls, and but I'm going to say 7 because no one's going to be able to prove it one way or the other, and it puts my client in a much better light that he's coveted and everyone wants him. And you better hurry up, Giants. You better hurry up, Browns. You better hurry up, whoever the heck wants him to go do this. So,
well said.
This is all coming from an agent, so let's all take that with a grain of salt as well. But I don't doubt, regardless of the number, 6, 7, 10, whatever it might be, John Harbaugh will be very coveted in this cycle. And if he wants to coach, he is going to coach one of these teams or one that has a coach right now that has been rethinking things, that he will coach a team. If he wants to coach this upcoming season, he will have a choice here of which team he's going to coach. I don't have any doubt about that. Here's a nice one on the Raiders. I do think this is interesting, and we talked about it a little bit the other day about the idea that the Raiders are going to be hot on his heels here, Boy Green. And after all, they do have the number 1 overall picks, and now you get to pick your quarterback. Theoretically, it's Mendoza at this point. We'll see. We're gonna have the big showdown this week, right? That game's Friday, right?
That's correct. Oregon, Indiana.
So I'm looking forward to that. We got Thursday, Friday, by the way, for the college playoffs this week. So no, I mean, that's intriguing that you now get to start with the guy that you believe could be your franchise quarterback, and that guy hasn't even played it down, and he becomes immediately a guy that you get to put your influence on from the day he walks into the building. There is something interesting about that. And you do have, Sin City, and you do have Tom Brady out there now, whether you like him or not. He's getting highly involved in their football decisions, and they really seem to be putting a lot of trust in him, really putting a lot of responsibility on his plate. It's always been that ownership out there with the Davis family that interferes with everything. But maybe for once, they have finally looked at the tea leaves, kind of like James Dolan, it seems, has looked at the tea leaves, although he still finds a way to get involved, Boy Green. I think his fingerprints were all over Tom Thibodeau, all right, and firing him and putting and pushing down on management. We have to let Tibbs go. So it feels to me like ownership that has that penchant. Even if they get out of the way for a little while, something comes along and they get back in the way. But I do think this is a fascinating situation out there in Vegas. They obviously have a beautiful stadium out there, a loyal fan base that they're building in Vegas, and they do have the Tom Brady thing. Do you think there's any chance that Harbaugh would look at the Raiders and go, hey, I got something?
Well, first off, thanks for the question, Correct Mechanics on YouTube. Appreciate that. I would say here's another factor too. Harbaugh Bowl. His brother's in that division, so he'd play them
The
twice.
reason not to do it, is to play my brother twice a year.
I get.
Ooh.
Well, here's the thing. Well,
Let's have dinner, I guess.
well, that's true. But when I think of brothers, right? Eli and Peyton hated playing against each other based on what they say publicly. Who knows if privately they enjoy ribbing a brother. But every time they've played, and they played a handful of times during their career, both of them said they hated it because, like, it's my brother, and I enjoy, like if one's playing on Monday Night Football, one's playing on Sunday, I enjoy watching other brother play. But to me, that's an intriguing thought. Someone called the morning show and said that. There is intrigue to the number 1 overall pick and Tom Brady and the allure of Vegas. But beyond that, though, do I want to go into a division with Patrick Mahomes, the number 1 seeded Denver Broncos, and then the Chargers, which is my brother, and then my Raiders team, which has the number 1 overall pick, which means we sucked? You got to have a lot of confidence in yourself that you could turn it around. So it is an intriguing spot. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
We'll see what happens, as they say. Moving down the comments here, Boy Green. Here's an interesting one on the playoffs. Just give the NFC to the Seahawks. All right. So
I told you,
some agreement there from Keep It Simple RC. He thinks the Seahawks are destined to win it. And then another comment from him again saying the Bills are destined to fall short. So we'll see. It's all going to play out here. And the Bills will likely have to go through the Seahawks if they manage to win this first round game, the wild card weekend.
Wait. No, AFC, NFC. Why would they play
sorry.
the
Yes.
Seahawks?
Yeah. Sorry. I got my head upside down and backwards. Yes, you're correct. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. That's right.
No.
The Seahawks are in the NFC. Yes.
But no, to the overall point, though, whether you think this is fair or unfair, a lot of people are going to give Josh Allen a lot of crap if he doesn't win it this year. No Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes. And if you can't win it this year, I know there's an interesting, we're in a new age, new era, Jaguars, Broncos. There's teams in here that aren't always in here. If Josh Allen doesn't win it this year, I think a lot of people, whether it's fair or unfair, will say, damn, if you can't win it now, then when can you? This is the perfect path. And no one's going to care on the docket. Well, especially for the Bills who have never won a Super Bowl, but on the docket forever, it will say 2025 champion. The Buffalo Bills won the Super Bowl in the 2025 season. That's what people will say. We'll never go, well, the path was a little questionable or this or good, bad, and different. Oh, well, Lamar wasn't in there. Joe Burrow wasn't in there. Patrick Mahomes. The winners get the chance to write history. You win the Super Bowl by any means, no matter whoever the hell else is in the playoffs. But yes, I agree with Keep It Simple RC that I think this Bills team is not the best Bills team of the last couple of years. Now, that doesn't guarantee they will lose, but this is not the best version. I am scared of their run defense and lack of a wide receiver. Like, I don't know. I think those issues are going to come back to haunt them.
Yeah, it might very well. We shall see. Yeah, but still, the Bills will have to go through number 1 seed. Of course, that's the Denver Broncos. So that's what I was thinking.
Potentially, right.
Potentially. I mean, because if they win this weekend, they'll likely be the lowest seed, right? I mean,
if the Chargers don't beat the Patriots.
Chargers don't beat the Pats, right?
Because if the Chargers beat the Pats, it's guaranteed.
Reseed,
Chargers will go and
Chargers
reseed.
will play the number 1, right? So it'll be the lowest seed out of this wild card that will face the Denver Broncos.
Correct.
In Denver. So that's,
right.
That's a tough task. And theoretically, let's assume the Chargers don't will. The Bills would have to go through Denver and then, whoever's there, which
New England, probably.
If you're going to go by seeding or if you think somebody else could surprise. But I mean, man, that's a gauntlet. I mean, that's 3 times that Josh Allen is going to really have to show up for the Bills. Because to me, this is a Superman situation this playoff season for Josh Allen. I mean, I think he can get some help from the defense. I think he will get some help from James Cook, but I don't trust that receiving core. And I don't trust that defense for 3 straight games. I just don't see them stopping everyone. So they're going to need Superman Josh Allen, I think, maybe for all 3 games, Boy Green, to get the win, to get all the way. They might need him to be Superman 3 times on the road.
Well,
it is tough. Tough
if we go back to history, I don't get a chance to talk about this often because it just doesn't come up. But like, this is a future Jeopardy game, perhaps, of when we talk about some of the greatest runs quarterbacks have had, either statistically of them being Superman or the opponents they've faced. We don't talk about that often. We just represent Super Bowl champions. But, Joe Flacco, speaking of Harbaugh, he had this incredible run. He had 12 touchdowns and 1 interception in the Super Bowl run, and he was electric. And he had the crazy win against, speaking of the Denver Broncos, in Denver, where he had the rocket bomb to Jacoby Jones, God rest his soul, for like an 80-yard bomb that got behind the defense, and then the Ravens won. So sometimes you have these incredible paths. So if Joe Flacco was able to do it 1,000 years ago, you would think Josh Allen, you have to meander, you got to sort of muster 3 or 4 games together here of making this incredible run from wildcard, divisional, conference championship to Super Bowl. It can happen. People can get hot, and we'll see if Josh has it in his body.
Now, this was brought up about a Harbaugh. R&R for Fun has brought it up. A Harbaugh should have tried to get closer for that field goal instead of taking the 2-yard and putting it in the middle of the field kind of thing. The only thing I'd say about that is Loop hadn't missed inside of 50 the whole year. I mean, you just think he's going to make it. And another play, is a dangerous prospect. But they had the timeout. I think I would have run another play. There's no way I throw it. I would have handed it off, okay? But I probably would have handed the ball at Derrick Henry, try to get him in the middle of the field and get you in maybe another 3, 4, 5 yards. But the way that kick went anyway, I don't think if you're 10 yards closer, that kick's going through. I mean, that thing started darting right off the
isn't everything different, right? You take one thing out, then everything changes, right?
Yes, it can.
But no, to your overall point, I agree. Loop hadn't missed inside 50, so this is hindsight going back on it. But it is an interesting fact. But no, if I was in that position, again, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. But of course, I would have tried to get as close as possible and then try to line up where my kicker preferred. So I'm running the ball, the clock's running. I'm like, hey, which hash? Left, right? Okay, boop, boop. And I would have tried to get, and who knows, Derrick Henry could break one to the house, especially when you sort of have people in a lull. All they're trying to do is time, and then you break off a big play, you can win that way. So, yeah, I would have tried to get closer, but to be honest, Loop had never missed inside of 50. So
here's a Jets draft question for you, BG. The Jets, with the draft coming up, would you do a Redskins scenario when they drafted RG3 and Kirk Cousins? In this case, you would probably go Moore and Drew Aller, assuming they were available. Thoughts about the Jets taking 2, as the Browns, interestingly, did last year for different reasons, I guess.
Yeah, that was very different. I'm not, so to talk about that strategy first, the strategy of taking 2 quarterbacks, I am totally not against. Absolutely. More swings at these we have the let me put it up here on the screen if I have it here real quick, right? This is for something different, but I'll throw it up, right? We have Harbaugh, all these lottery ping pong balls that are bouncing all over the place. Those ping pong balls, take Harbaugh off the screen. The ping pong balls are quarterbacks. And quarterbacks are lottery tickets. You have no idea if they're going to be good, anything indifferent, right? The Redskins back in the day got lucky, right? They take RG3 while he's griffining, his leg explodes and Mike Shanahan puts him back out there, and then his career is never the same. Awesome. Unfortunate. And Kirk Cousins gets his shot. Who knows if he would have ever got a shot as a 4th-round pick, goes in there, and he has this wonderful career, and the career's still alive. So I am not opposed to taking 2 quarterbacks. I don't know if Drew Aller would be the quarterback because Drew Aller broke his ankle in college at Penn State. I'm not a doctor. I don't have his medical history in front of me. And then you have Dante Moore, and Dante Moore would be the number 2 overall pick. I'm not sure if Aller is the choice, but I don't hate the strategy. Yeah.
I like that Chambliss guy, although he may not come out because he's
applying for another year of eligibility.
So we'll see what that has.
But that doesn't always work, right? Kyle McCord, Syracuse, he applied for another year of eligibility. It wasn't working, so he just entered the draft. So
he's intriguing to me because he came up through the ranks and he's worked his way up to this level now, and he has succeeded each time he stepped up. So there's something intriguing to me about that. But again, he's not going to be a day 1 pick, at least I don't think, unless he does amazing things, I guess, in the combine or something that really, really draws more attention to him. Obviously, still alive in the playoffs, so maybe something could shake there. Let me see if there's anything else in the comments we want to get to here, Boy Green. Here's one on the Jets here. He says, remember when the Jets went down to the wire with Denver, and now they are the number 1 seed. Like, look at how quickly. It's an interesting one, how quickly Denver has turned it around. They just didn't look good a couple of seasons ago.
Right.
And man, I mean, is that evidence of what difference a good coach makes? I mean,
sure. And also, but I think it also speaks to probably a greater point here from Taylor Sterling here on YouTube, that it's about the fine line of the NFL, that any given Sunday and these playoffs, which should be exciting, it's single elimination. It's fantasy football playoff. You can have a 14-0 regular season, you lose in your first playoff opportunity, it's over. 14-1. Who cares? It doesn't matter what you did. So anything can happen in a singular game. So to the point of the Jets pushing Denver, and Denver's now the number 1 seed, if you want to pride that for any Jet fans and say, hey, see, we competed with somebody, or the fact that any opponent can lose. So.
All right, one more here from Johnny Boy. He says, insert any other QB name. With Ty Simpson injury, does his draft stock fall and maybe a later shot at him? Thoughts on that one?
I don't know what additional injury he could be talking about outside of what happened during the college football playoff, but no, it sounds like from all accounts, again, there's a lot that could change. We have the NFL Scouting Combine. We have the College All-Star Circuit. We have the Senior Bowl. We've got pro days. I mean, we got a lot of things, but my gut would tell me Ty Simpson is either going to go in the teens or the 20s. It also depends what happens to Dante Moore. That's a quarterback decision I think Jet fans are waiting with a little bit more bated breath. That's in 7 days is the first soft deadline for the NFL draft. If Oregon beats Indiana this weekend, they go to the national championship game. That deadline extends to the 23rd. So if Dante Moore is in, the full expectation is he'll be the number 2 overall pick, which means he'll go to the Jets, and Ty Simpson stays in his teens range. But as Dalton Wasserman said earlier, and I'll have a piece up on this for Heavy on Jets referencing our interview today with Dalton, is that if Dante is not in the draft, quarterback supply and demand could push Ty Simpson a lot higher into the top 10, despite the fact that he's injured and all these other things. Like, the thing I fear is what Rich Cimini, he already tweeted this earlier today, so we can highlight it. Here's my fear. Ty Simpson has 15 college starts, 28 touchdowns, 5 picks, 523 passing attempts. That is a very limited sample size to take someone. And there is a very eerie history with college quarterbacks with very minimal track records in college making the jump. Sometimes players can do it. Most of the time they can't. So that's a little bit nerve-wracking.
All right, MFC says absolutely good coaching is the reason Denver turned it around. Pats as well. Fire AG, hire Harbaugh if possible. Here's one of the things about the Jets and Harbaugh, too, beyond just the idea of you go back on your word on AG here, sure, and you go get a guy that's a proven commodity, is would Harbaugh want to come play for the Jets? And, because Woody is a shaky guy. I mean, and then his, dropping a guy here after, like all of that, just it breeds a seediness that a guy like Harbaugh could just look at and say, I got other good choices, and why would I come here? Now, of course, you do have the number 2 pick in the draft, and again, you have that opportunity to pick a quarterback and build around a quarterback. I think there are other attractive things about the Jets, the fact that they play, they're New York on the front of those jerseys, and they play in the largest market in the world. I do think all of that does have to go into the blender, just like it does for people considering the Giants. But Woody and the way Woody has handled this team in recent years, I just think you're going to look at ownership. You're going to look at who you're working for. And would you want to go work for Woody right now, especially if he went back on his word on Glenn? Number 1, I don't see him going back on his word. And number 2, I just don't see it as a great match for the Jets because of that. Thoughts?
Right. To me, I know the fans who want to fire AG don't give a bleep about the word that Woody may or may not
be a great guy and get him out of here, right? Yeah. I get it. Listen, if you're not a Glenn supporter, and there's a lot of reason not to support him based on what he's delivered in year 1, that is a legitimate thing, okay? And I'm not, even though I have advocated like you have, BG, that they should keep him at least another season, because I have seen the greatest coaches in the world, some Hall of Famers, have terrible first seasons and completely and utterly get it on track and become great, all right? And I just think one season is not enough. But for those that are on the other side of that and just see it as already an abject failure, he could continue. It could be a failure. If it's an awful season again next year, now you really have to seriously think about it.
No, I agree. And the thing I would just add to this for this conversation is this is something I push back on. I'm not willing to do. Some AG people that hate his guts are totally willing to do it. I've heard Jet fans tell me, even before the Harbaugh thing, but even now with the Harbaugh thing, you fire Glenn right now at this very second, and you chase Harbaugh. If you don't chase Harbaugh, whoever those fans are, say, hire whoever the hell you want. I don't care. The mystery, the randomness is better than AG. I say absolutely not. If you want me, I don't make the decisions, but if I were to fire AG, I better have an unequivocal answer of who to replace him with. Everyone loves firing people. It's a sexy thing, apparently. But not a lot of people have solutions. And the solutions that people have given me for fire AG and then go to this guy, I'm poking holes like Swiss cheese through the plan. I'm like, but this guy's a first-year guy too. This guy stinks. This guy sucks. This guy's this. So to me, I've not heard a lot of great answers. Now, Harbaugh has an outstanding resume, which would say that he is a great answer, but there's no guarantee that he comes. So to me, I write it out with AG. Hope for the best that this season turns around and a lot of different things. Again, they have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. They got $300 million cap space in the next 2 years. So they're going to make seismic changes. Let's see if it turns around. If it does, I think a lot of people will be doing a quick backpedal here.
Again, like Dan Campbell sucked. Okay, that's a very recent example. Chuck Noll, going way back, stunk. Okay, sure. Jimmy Johnson, god awful. Okay. And I could find you probably 5 more really good examples of guys that had incredible runs at their places. So are you truly convinced based on, and yeah, I think you have to consider, I know the Jets weren't competitive and I know it hurts to watch those games when your team is just out there failing left and right. It sucks as a fan. You're just like, get this out of here. I don't want to see this anymore. All right. But those teams were that way too. That Dallas team was that way too. That Pittsburgh team was that way too. That Detroit team looked like the Detroit of years gone by. This guy hasn't changed a darn thing. Biting kneecaps. Who cares? We still stink. All right. All of those things existed in those places, and they did turn. Just a season alone, unless it's gross incompetence, as I would argue for, say, Ray Hanley with the Giants, to just use a Giants analogy. I'm sure there are other great ones out there with other franchises. Probably Adam Gase should have been let go right away. To me, there was some great incompetency shown there. While the Jets haven't been competitive during a lot of this season, I don't see the gross incompetence with AG at this point. Okay, so he has to get at least 2 seasons. It's so crazy. In today's world, it's like if you don't start showing definitive signs in 2 seasons, you're out. That's just the new world. I don't like it, to be honest with you, but it is the new world. We are very P-I-M, right? Prisoner? No, P-O-M.
P-O-M.
Moment, right? That's
the I is silent. Yeah.
My term, right? Prisoner of the moment. So P-O-M. We are so POM. We want it now. We want it immediately. We're in this fast food world. It's just, we got to do it. Bill Parcells, somebody brought it up. 3-12-1. Thank you for that. Keep it simple. 3-12-1. Get him out of here. He stinks. He doesn't know what he's doing. Built a legacy. Like, you just can't jump too fast. Okay. In today's world, I think it has to be at least 2 seasons, and then I think you can have a better look. Plus, I mean, can you not look at the Jets situation and see why they lost some of these games? Why they were so grossly incompetent? I mean, I understand AG put his faith in a quarterback who has shown that several times and several stops that you shouldn't put your faith in him. And he did. And he turned out to be wrong, and then he had to play a bunch of other guys that aren't ready. All right. And try to win with that. And then you throw in injuries and everything else that went on. The circumstances were awful for him to succeed.
Of course.
So we need new circumstances. And so I think you have to give him a chance to have new circumstances, at least for 1 more season, and then see where it goes. Then maybe there's a better sense of, is this guy really have the stuff? Is he ready? Is he up for this challenge or not? I think it's at least 1 more season for AG, despite the struggles. I know it's hard, man. It stinks when your team is lousy and not even competitive. And the Jets at times were not. I get it. It's tough.
Yeah.
Oof.
I understand for the fans. I understand.
Oof. It's hard, man. But you could be like me, folks. A couple of days ago, man, like I was like my head buried in the sand and just like, all right, when's baseball start? Like whatever. I just anything but, make me continue to talk about this brutal season. The number 5 overall pick now, when we could have had a grasp on the number 1 overall pick and maybe gotten some additional assets that we desperately need. And, we don't even have a coach right now. And some of the prospects that are out there are like, these guys that I'm like, what? Mike McCarthy? He's a top candidate. What? Offensive coordinator who's never done anything. Oh, we're going to take this young guy over here and roll the dice again. Didn't we just show that we couldn't do that with Brian Dable? And now a few days have gone by, man. And we're talking John Harbaugh and Kevin Stefanski and a whole new world. And like, life is good. So
caviar, baby.
It can flip very, very quickly to optimism and hope. And that's all we all want for our franchises, for our teams that we root for, is optimism and hope. It starts there. We want the championships, obviously. We want the end result. But optimism and hope is where it begins. And I know it can get bleak sometimes. And right now, I understand Jets Nation, it's a little dark. But, you're going to get yourself a quarterback here this year. So things might not be as dark. And I hope we hear from Dante Moore sooner rather than later. Again, depending on how they do this weekend, or this week, I should say, we'll either maybe move that date up a little bit and get him committed one way. Right. He has to come out. He's going to come out.
I would assume.
He's going to come out. I mean,
that's serious money.
Why would he not? I mean, unless they could do something crazy. I mean, in today's world, NIL is out there and money is now existent in college. So, they'd have to put some kind of bundle together to convince him.
But even still, that's not $50 million from the draft money,
Right. And he can still be the number 1 overall pick, by the way. I mean, and what quarterback coming out?
Yeah, sure. Right.
And we have seen in recent years, by the way, several quarterbacks who decided to stay the extra season and flopped. And every time you 100%. Have an example of that going on, you're like, why would I do that? They already value me. I'm like a top 2 pick right now with the chance to go to the combine and convince everybody I'm number 1, or to have a good effort this week, maybe have a good effort in one more game and show everybody that I am number 1. I don't even need to go to the combine now. I don't even need to throw a football over there. I'll just, run a few things and that'll be the end of it. I'll show up for interviews. So Dante Moore is in a fabulous position right now that he can make himself either number 1 or number 2. You don't pass that up, even for NIL money. You just don't do it.
Yeah, I don't. And again, you've just told some of the worst stories. Drew Aller, that someone talked about. Ooh, could have him in the mid rounds. He could have been a top 5 pick in this past year's draft, but he said, "I'm going back to school." Matt Barkley was a top 5 pick. They went back to school. Was a mid round pick, and his entire life changed. So again, to me, I think Dante Moore would be crazy to go back to school. But hey, kids make crazy decisions all the time.
And Arch Manning needs to flip the narrative a little bit because he has not been the miracle worker that everybody thought as that last name on the back of his jersey.
Although the season ended very nicely.
Yeah, he did. He finished up strong, but I think he needs another really good, solid season to convince, NFL franchises that he is, a top pick, top 5 pick, a top pick, period, number 1 pick. That's what he wants to do. That's what he's dreaming of. So you don't want any doubts. Right now, there's still a lot of doubts about what he's going to bring to the table. So,
of course.
All right, you want to pick up on anything else in the comments before we say goodbye, BG? I know it's been another long one, but enjoyable to say the least. My goodness.
Yeah, we got plenty of content that's coming, and including, speaking of that content, and I know for all the Jets questions that are in here, we're going to do a conversation with Jake Asman in a very brief period of time here.
I'll have Jake out probably by 2 o'clock today. So
yeah, you're right. So that interview is coming rapidly, very shortly here. He will get a chance to make his pitch because he's been very loud that he wants Harbaugh to the Jets, and he's been very loud about it. So he will give a riveting take, I'm sure, on that possibility and more. So I'm looking forward to our Jake Asman conversation. We've had a few conversations on social media about some of our disagreements. So I'm sure that'll come on air. So that'll be interesting. So we have that coming up here shortly. So I can't wait. That'll be more content later today. And in case you missed it, yesterday we had NBA content. We had Brunch with Bud Poliquin content. We had our Giants interview. We'll have the Bills interview tomorrow. We got our playoff pick segment on Friday. I mean, it's overflowing right now with content, which is terrific.
And is this true, Boy Green? If the Bills win the Super Bowl, Jets fans won't hear the end of it. Bills lose, please. Go Jags, says Mike.
It is, if there was a Buffalo Bills action figure of a fan and a New York Jets action figure of a fan, and they were talking trash to each other, the go-to for Bills fans is, you haven't won a Super Bowl since 1968, 1969. And Jet fans go, well, you've never won a Super Bowl ever. And they just yell back and forth. The Jets will lose some of their steam if the Bills finally win a Super Bowl. And then obviously it will have just happened. So there's some bragging rights for a long period of time. For us, forever. But there's some bragging rights for a significant period of time. So
I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. We've done this in trivia before. I probably shouldn't know the number, but again, recollection, not always my strongest suit. How many teams are currently in existence in the NFL that have not won a Super Bowl? Now, the Jets aren't on that list because they have a Super Bowl.
Of course not. Yeah, so there's 32 teams in the league, and there's about, I believe,
5, something something like that.
Okay, I just need to see the standings. That's all I need to
Google
see,
it. You
and
can Google it.
I can
No.
see. Okay,
We've
yeah,
had that questions.
yeah. I
Question.
believe it's 8 teams, but it might
Eight? Wow,
be it could be 11 or 12.
Oh my gosh, more than I thought. Wow, much more than I thought.
Yeah, let me see how many teams in the NFL have
Not won a Super Bowl yet.
won a Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
the
What's
only
your
team Super
before I
Bowl.
look? What's your official guess?
I thought it was lower than that. I thought it was going to be 5.
I have not put it yet. I have not put it yet.
Six. 6 is my guess.
I'm going to say 9.
Okay.
Let's see. There are 12 teams that have not won a
12.
Super
Oh
Bowl.
my God, I'm way off.
Okay, here are the 12 in no particular order.
Wow.
The Arizona Cardinals, the Atlanta Falcons, the Buffalo Bills, the Carolina Panthers, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the LA Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Tennessee Titans. There you go. And 4 of those teams have never reached the Super Bowl. That's Browns, Lions, Texans, Jaguars. They've been to the Super Bowl, but they've lost. Like, yeah. And again, the 4 teams I mentioned have never even been to the Super Bowl. They don't know what that is like. That is Jaguars, Texans, Lions, Browns. But the cool thing is, if you look at this year's playoffs, right, a lot of these teams are in the playoffs. So Bills are in the playoffs. Panthers are in the playoffs. Texans, Jaguars, Chargers. There's 5 of this group of 12 that could win. 5 of 14. That's pretty good odds. Let's see if that turns full force.
That just says Rams Texans in the Super Bowl with the Rams winning.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, Matt Stafford, CJ Stroud. That'd be a cool. I don't know. Sex appeal. LA versus Houston. I don't know how that works to the media market, TV people, but for me, that'd be a good Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that was a juicy one, as they say. A lot to chew on. And I'll end with this one, BG. So I threw this out there as rumor and speculation at this particular point. But when I start hearing rumblings from sources in Pittsburgh and credible people, it really, where there's smoke, there's fire a lot of times. If Mike Tomlin did, let's say the Steelers lose this weekend. All right. And Mike Tomlin, comes out of that game and says, yeah, I'm packing it in here in Pittsburgh. I just, I'm ready. I'm ready for a new challenge. I'm ready for something else. And he comes on the market. How does that, if anything, change the landscape at the moment with these teams that are out looking for someone? And again, speculatively with teams that have a head coach, but say, oh, now wait a minute. If I could have Mike Tomlin, I would let my current coach go.
So the NFL changed its rules about 2 years ago, where basically the hiring process is dragged out. There are all kinds of rules, and I'll have to pull them up. I saved it on a graphic somewhere of the latest rules. But when you're allowed to do Zoom interviews, when you're allowed to do in-person interviews, and again, some people are exempt of those rules. Harbaugh is a good example. He's fired. Mike McCarthy was out of football. He's exempt. He could meet in person with the Giants today, tomorrow. It doesn't matter. There's no rules for him. But there is rules for the Giants. Let's say they love Mike McCarthy. They can't hire him today. They have to interview at least 2 external minority and or female candidates for the position before they can hire anyone. So they have to go through a whole process. The internal evaluations with like a Kafka is going to get his shot. Obviously, most interims get their chance to interview for the job. So there's an entire process that drags out. So depending on, and what if you want like a coordinator on a team that's going deep in the Super Bowl, like for instance the Broncos, Vance Joseph, #1 seed. Whoa, Clint Kubiak on Seattle. Like if you're a team that really wants those guys, you're going to have to wait a long time before you can hire those guys. So it's a very extensive process, which I think helps the Tomlins of the world if he surprisingly becomes available late, because in the past, a few hires might have already happened and then Tomlin would have been unavailable to those teams. So in this new world, I think it spreads out content for us, which is good for business, that we get to speculate more. Oh, this is a good fit. This is a bad fit. This is this. So we get a lot more. I think it's better for the candidates because now they get more time to state their case, and hopefully there's no sham interviews happening. There's legitimate interviews happening for minority and female candidates where these are legitimate conversations. It's not just checking off a box for the Rooney Rule. So hopefully those things are happening. So, yeah, I think it changes it drastically, of course. Tomlin has never had a losing season. He's a Super Bowl winner. And again, I think a lot of people for this Harbaugh thing and Tomlin thing are going to think of Andy Reid. He was with the Eagles. They went to 5 NFC championship games, went to a Super Bowl, a lot of success, but eventually you just reach an impasse where either your message is stale or
Right.
You've maxed out. You can't go any higher than you've gone, and that's an unfortunate reality for some people. But you go to a new place, and Andy Reid's a perfect example of, hey, I had a lot of success at Philly. I went to Kansas City, and I reached a new level. I'm a multi-time Super Bowl champion. Got lucky with Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. So, maybe that is the path for Tomlin. Maybe that's a path for Harbaugh. They could have a lot of great success in a new locale.
All right, fair enough. All right, we are just 2 subscribers away, Boy Green, from 450, and we will give away that Jets program. So if you're not already a subscriber, right there, youtube.com/@MCShowDigital. And if you're looking to say, okay, well, not only am I in for that, but I can get in for something else, how about this?
All right, everybody, our next giveaway is going to be right out of the Manchild's collection. These bobbleheads from the Anchorman, a collection of 4. Check it out. We've got Veronica Corningstone right here. Very cool. Brick Tamlin, the weather guy, the zany weather guy played by Steve Carell. Check out, yes, Brian Fantana with the Sex Panther in his hand. Very, very cool. And then lastly, the sports nut Champ Kind. This collection of bobbleheads going out the door once we get to 475 subscribers. Subscribe now. It's absolutely free.
27 subscribers away from that, and just a couple away from Boy Green giving away that Jets program again. Absolutely free. YouTube.com/@MCShowDigital. Subscribe right now. We got to go. We got Jake Asman coming our way. We're going to record that interview very shortly. We should have it out to you by about 2 o'clock today. We will talk about all of it. Jake, as Boy Green said, wants Harbaugh, and he wants to see Glenn tossed out the door. We will definitely get into some rub with him about that and whether or not John Harbaugh would even want to come to the Jets if it were available. So that conversation should be a heated one. We'll have that out to you around 2 o'clock today. Again, thanks to everybody for joining us live today, and we will see you a little bit later in the week. Take care, everybody.